Creating a job climate that allows businesses to grow and thrive is vital to the success of our communities. A bill currently proposed in the State House seeks to provide some flexibility for the City of Philadelphia in how it taxes businesses, with the hope that new jobs will follow. Here to discuss this bill is the prime sponsor, State Representative John Taylor. Welcome to the
Tom.
Welcome to the microphone here. And let me ask you, before we even get to talk about your legislation, talk a little bit about the business environment in Philadelphia and where that is and why you came to sponsor your legislation.
Yeah, of course. We have some great things going on in the city of Philadelphia in terms of livability, art, culture, restaurants, young people moving to downtown Philadelphia, and even in some of our neighborhoods, including my district. What has been the secret problem of Philadelphia for many, many decades is the stagnant job growth. So compared to about 30 of the top cities in the United States, we're almost last in terms of job growth. Even in the Northeast Corridor, if you include New York, Washington, and Boston, we lag way behind cities like that in terms of job creation. And we think the primary culprit and the reason for that is the tax situation in Philadelphia is out of balance. So we have an over-reliance on business taxes and on wage taxes, which creates a disincentive for businesses to come to Philadelphia.
And your legislation has a unique perspective. You're looking to actually raise the potential property taxes on businesses higher than what the residential property taxes would be, but there's a trade-off.
Yeah, I mean, the chief problem is how do you lower those business taxes and the wage tax and yet not create a revenue shortfall for the city of Philadelphia. The business community itself, business leaders in the city of Philadelphia, labor leaders, civic leaders, have come forth with a proposal that allows the city of Philadelphia to tax businesses at a higher level on property, in return for which, and this is the important part, in return for which they get a dollar-for-dollar reduction in both the business taxes and the wage tax in Philadelphia. But to do that, we have to change the Constitution of Pennsylvania, which, as you know, is an arduous process, and we hope to do that this week.
Talk a little bit about that process since you mentioned it. Changing the Constitution requires passing it in two different sessions, going to voters.
Yeah, so right now in House Bill 1871, it includes the constitutional amendment, which will change the Constitution. That calls for the break in the uniformity clause. So businesses and residents, residential property tax can be taxed at a different level, strictly in the city of Philadelphia. But in the Constitution, and this is a controversial part, we want the actual language that says it must be a dollar-for-dollar reduction in wage tax and in business taxes. Now, to do that, we have to pass it this legislative session, which ends November 30th. The Senate has to pass it in that time period as well. We have to then pass it again next legislative session, which we would hope to do early in the session, and then it goes on the ballot for the voters of Pennsylvania to decide if they want to change the Constitution in that way. At that point, we can create enabling legislation, and it just gives the city of Philadelphia a definite tool to lower those taxes.
What kind of response have you been getting from the business community?
Well, the business community in general is in favor. The large property owners in Center City are really brought this to the forefront and studied this for about 4 years. We are concerned about some smaller businesses and how the effect on that and how the effect on them, and then maybe some businesses that have large footprints in property and very few employees. So we'll try to, in the enabling legislation, work within the constitutional parameters that we're setting to make sure it's as fair as possible to everybody. But as many of our members have said, even though this is a bold proposal, very controversial one, if it reduces the growing problem of the wage tax in Philadelphia, it's worth it. And that's our main goal is to make sure that those taxes are reduced.
And certainly the wage tax is a tough one in Philly, and so that's likely to be winning you support on this bill.
Yeah, and as we talked about, it lowers the commuter tax from people that work in Philadelphia and live in the suburbs, and it lowers an even higher tax on Philadelphia residents that work in Philadelphia. And that is one of the main reasons that companies do not locate in the city, for fear of that tax.
Thank you, Representative Taylor. If you have comments or questions about this or any legislative topic, Representative Taylor's contact information will be on the screen in a few seconds. Thanks for spending a few minutes with State Representative John Taylor.